Good morning, good morning, good morning, good morning, ladies and gentlemen. How we doing today? We've got 21 people already joining us this morning. Very exciting times. Man, what is everybody up to this morning? Today is Friday, April 5th. We are already 5 days into the new month, into the new quarter here. Connor, AB, Kishore, Lee, Ebba, Kyle, Wood, Kevin, Chris, Juan, Rush, Steve, Pansy, John, Dante. We got Will, Alan, Carlos, Gloria, Mark, Andy, Amanda, Gabe, Eamon. How we doing this morning? Dalton. Ladies and gentlemen, we got some power players. Lee said there was an earthquake in New York City. Man, what a way to start off the day, ladies and gentlemen. We got a real great opportunity to be in proximity with one another. We are all actively pursuing this business day in and day out. I want to know what everybody's up to in their businesses, trying to get one step closer to their next deal. Yesterday, I dropped over $1,000 on PPC leads. I'm going to be following up with some of the people today, but it does not look like it is going to be fruitful, unfortunately. I have yet to get on the phone with some of these people, but I spent about $1,200 on like 5 or 6 conversations. We got Connor coming to join us. Sam's getting ready to get his first deal closed out. Exciting times. We got Mr. Matt Riley joining us from the audience. Mr. Matt Riley, are you going to be doing your call today? What's the deal? Mr. Pena, good morning. We got a happy Matt in the side chat there. Everybody's dropping the happy Matt. Oof. Oh, I was fooled. I was fooled. He caught me there. We need a sad Matt. Our mornings have not been the best these past 2 to 3 days. AB, come up on the stage, man. Talk to us. What's going on? Why do we need a sad Matt emoji? We got a lot of mixed emotions here in the chat, ladies and gentlemen. We got some people that are hyped up. We got some people that are upset. Man, this is just the day in the life of an entrepreneur. It is quite a roller coaster. I also am not feeling the best. I've spent $1,200 on pay-per-leads with this company, and I have gotten 0 hot leads, and it is not a good feeling. But at the same time, to be able to spend $1,200 on a couple of phone calls. Dalton is asking which pay per lead company. I will put it out there. It is not iSpeed. This is a different company. I don't want to trash their name just yet, but it's not looking good so far. Geez, Mr. Matt Riley's asking, well, what makes their leads not so good so far? Well, I will say the sellers haven't picked up their phone. I call them immediately. I get the notification. I call them immediately. There is a few things about transparency in terms of the timing that these leads come in. They tell me that I'm buying them immediately when they come in, and I've got a bid on the lead. It's a definite it's a different process, right? This is unseen. I haven't really seen a company doing this before, but I wanted to put up some money to see is this real? Is this going to work? And I got on the phone with the guy. He said it's a 6 to 20 leads to a deal, depending on your skill. I've closed multiple deals, and I'm confident in my ability to convert leads into contracts. I've only really had, I want to say, 2 conversations out of the 6 leads that have come in so far. They have a return policy on their leads, and so if they don't pick up within a 4-day period of a minimum of 12 touches on the lead, they will give you your money back. Though it is hoops to jump through. There are set rules in place, so I will keep you updated on how that goes. I won't be putting them on blast or anything just yet. But it's not looking so good so far. I talked to one person, and matter of fact, I could probably have that follow-up call live if you guys want to hear it. She said that she is looking for $300K for the house. I already reached out. It's sitting on 5 acres. It was at 20 acres at one point. She sold off like 15 acres to a developer. And so I reached out to that agent that represented the developer already. I got, an idea of what that developer would be willing to pay for the acreage. They told me about 15 to 20K per acre. She wants 300,000. It has a 2,100 square foot house on the lot with a barn behind it, and they're asking 300K. The one comp that I saw after running the price per square foot puts us at about 275 if we were to sell it on the MLS. So you all know what that means. If I'm looking to make 30K on an ovation, let's do the math together, ladies and gentlemen. If we were to sell that for 275, we're going to take off the 10% and subtract 30,000. I would need this under contract for 217,500, so I would ask them to be closer to around 200,000. And even that is pushing it, because it's just I feel like when you've been doing this business for a while, you kind of have an idea. You can look at a property and you can just say, yeah, this one's going to be a quick sell. This one's going to be a banger. I just don't really have that confidence looking at this one, but we will see. I'll take a look at the property, and if push comes to shove and the developer would be willing to pay $15,000 per acre, that's 75 right there. But it does not account for the house. So we'll see. They're aware that there are not many comps for this property. I believe, they are also aware that I put it out there. I make it very clear that I'm an investment company and we are looking to purchase properties for profit. I don't know that this individual would be the type to accept an ovation just because, you know, I feel like they would see the agreement and say, okay, well, why don't I just go list this? So we'll see, what options we have here. Good morning, Dan. But if you guys want to see that call, I can make that call live right now. I don't mind. I'll throw myself into the arena. You guys can give me some live feedback. We can run the call. I want to be of service. Let a lot of people see, we really do this business, and we do put our money where our mouth is. We're reinvesting into marketing, and it might look painful to see, oh shit, you spend about $1,000, $1,200, $2,000 on some leads, but if they are motivated and I can make a deal happen, I'm happy to do it. But ultimately, I've been thinking about this a lot recently, is that, I think that there are a lot of marketing platforms out there and agencies and that kind of stuff, but I personally I haven't really found one that can generate consistent results. And so, I'm actually curious to see, if I can figure out how to do that for myself.
Oh, there we go. I'm sorry, I was having technical. I didn't mean to interrupt you. Go ahead.
Nah, you're good. Good morning, Dan.
Good morning. I'm sorry, I was having some technical difficulties right there.
Oh,
Them wasn't working.
You want to take a look at this deal with me and we underwrite it? I give him a call.
What's the situation? I missed the introduction.
So, they're looking to get rid of this property. I like that what Dante said in the chat. He said, Nick Perry says, no one will take care of your PPC like you. That's interesting.
Yeah, that's true. That's a very good point. It's a very good point. Nick definitely knows his stuff. What's today's seltzer? It's same thing, man. Pellegrino, we straight.
Let's see here.
Every day. Listen, man, if you don't like bubble water, me and John got a problem with you.
It is true.
Okay. Low key. The last motherfucker that didn't like Pellegrino, we dropped his ass. From
I
the
told
crew.
Dan, I did warn him.
Gone.
I said, listen,
He's
man.
gone.
That guy doesn't like seltzer water?
He's gone. He's gone. He's gone and no longer in the crew.
That's funny. All right.
Rogue Steve said, "Tap water, bro. What the hell is wrong, bro? This guy's Steve's out here trying to grow like 4 arms or some shit."
Hey, well, you know what they say about tap water.
What's tap? What do they say about tap water?
You never heard Alex Jones talk about tap water?
Oh yeah.
No. Yeah. You can't be drinking the tap water.
You can't be drinking the tap water, man. Gotta be careful.
That ain't acceptable.
Gotta be careful with that. You gotta be careful with that.
But I'm gonna pull it up here. So I got my comp, and then I'm gonna pull up.
All right.
The subject property here. I'll pull up my Google Voice so you guys can hear the call. And let's see here. Where's this lady at? Right here. I gotta remember her name. Becky. That's what it is. Okay. Hey, yo. Just saw the side chat. Daily coffee. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we're gonna hear John Johnson. We're gonna hear John Johnson on the phone. And so I'm just gonna break it down to explain to her pretty much where I'm at and what I can offer to her. I'm just gonna let her know that Matter of fact, let's consult. Before I hop on this call, I want to give a couple of heavy hitters an opportunity to really shine here and walk me through their pitch for the novation. All right, and then I'll make the pitch
Uh-oh.
live. So if there's anybody in the audience that wants to hop up and have a say on how I should
You
structure
want
this
you want to do
pitch,
the classic. You want to do the Dan Fazio pitch.
let's open it up. I want to know. We've got a couple of different approaches here. I've seen a couple people that are in the audience here making money, doing novations. I've also made money doing multiple novations as well. So I'm curious to know, how they all pitch it. How do you pitch it, Dan?
Well, I mean, if you've heard me on the live stream, I mean, people have heard me on the live stream pitch it before. It depends on the situation of the home, right? So it depends on, so my pitch changes depending on what type of novation that we're doing. If we're just doing a listing, right, where we're just, if it's in really good condition, we're looking at it as is condition, right? Then the pitch basically goes like this. It basically says like, listen, me being an investor, I'm probably not gonna be able to give you what you want cash, but my company does have a special program where, in order to qualify, we look for certain homes in certain areas where we have a lot of retail buyers that work closely with our company, right? So being in a competitive market right now, people are having a really hard time, as finding their dream home for a good price, right? Because the market is very overinflated. So what we do is when we have someone that wants to sell for closer to market value, but maybe is willing to offer a little bit of a discount off of what it would typically go for in the MLS, we're going to give you the same benefits as a cash offer. But basically, instead of us buying the property, we're going to sell it to a retail buyer that we have in our network. And we're going to have one of those people actually buy it with either a typical loan or cash at the table. The thing is that if your house fails an inspection or some type of inspection that they need to qualify for a loan, you don't have to worry because we're going to actually come in and take care of those things that need to be adjusted in order for you to pass that inspection. It's going to come out of our pocket. And you don't have to pay us anything. Our money is made exclusively from the retail buyers that come through on our program. So you can feel great about helping somebody, buy your home, and maybe it's their dream home, and then you also get closer to that price point that you're looking for and also get the same benefits as a cash offer. Now, if you're going more towards the homes that are like need some work, or let's say you get a person that says like, hey, listen, I'm just about done renovating the home. I might just actually renovate it myself and finish it and list it. How many people have talked to someone where you have been in discussions with a seller where they say, oh yeah, I'm about done renovating it. I think I'll just finish it myself and list it. I say, okay, well, why haven't you done that yet though? Right? Like that's the first thing. So, and then the other thing is they'll say like, oh, well, I just don't have the time right now or whatever. I say, okay, hey, well, how about this? How about my company goes in, finishes the home for you, right? We'll come out of pocket and then we'll list it. We'll get what we put back into the property, right, during the renovation process. And then we'll also help you sell it for top market value. And then I'll get my price out of the person that we sell it to, and we'll take that difference. We'll split the profit. So it just depends on what condition the home is in, but that's the two ways we kind of go about it.
And then, so you actually do you usually not have to come out of pocket, to make those repairs, or are you anticipating to come out of pocket when you make that suggestion?
Depends on the home, right? Like if it needs renovated, right? If it does finish, right? Need to be finished, then if we think that we can add a significant amount of value, we'll go ahead and finish it. But most of these people that you're talking to on the phone, they don't have the resources that I do. They don't have the connections that I do. They can't just go in and like affordably get done what needs to be done. And they don't even know anything about, the market like they think that they do. Right. So we can comp more effectively. We can probably get them more money than that they were going to get to start with. But realistically, we really try to like make it seem like it's like for us, how I sell the other one though, when the home doesn't need any work and we go as is, we really pitch that as almost like I call it the home adoption process, right? We pitch it as like as if it's a child, you know what I mean, that we're sending out to these people that want to have a child like that this person doesn't want to have, right? So I call it the home adoption process. That's what we call it.
Home adoption.
We're helping a home find its forever owner because that person doesn't want the home anymore, right? It's the same thing as like if you have a child, you don't want to keep the child, right? The adoption company helps find parents that are looking for a child, right? That can't have a child. And so therefore they kind of make the connection.
Got it.
Well, because we take care of the whole process for them, Steve. Like we're not going to go through and do the typical thing that an agent is going to do with them, right? We already have a network of people. This is how you pitch it. We already have a network of people that are ready to buy a home today. So that's why you want to go with us rather than just going to market. Because do you really want to go with an agent and they just have every single person walk through their home? They're not even pre-qualified. They're not even. They're just going to let anybody walk through your home that just wants to request a showing. You just want to listen to every single other offer. No, you don't want to do that.
Man, I want to hear AB get on the stage because I seen he's been locking up some novations. I'm gonna invite him to come and speak. He says he pitched a guy the other day. He said, "So you're basically my realtor, AB." What did you say to that guy?
I said, yeah, basically, but I'm not gonna be. You're not gonna have to, you're not gonna have to take care of anything. I push the hands-off experience a lot, and then ever since I did that, I have a call with him on Monday to see what we can list it for.
Word.
But yeah, he hit me with that. So you're basically my realtor, and I said technically no, we have an agent on the team. But one thing when it comes to these novations, I make it seem like their house has to qualify. Because
Yeah.
then they start
Yep.
they start going like, wait, what you mean I can't qualify? Look at my house. Because the only way I really tell them, look, your house can easily qualify if it's in a great condition, a lot of all that bullshit. And then once you start telling them that we're gonna have to see, they start questioning like, what do you mean we'll have to see? My house is in great condition. So it gives them that suspense to see what they can get out of uh out of this qualification if it does pass.
All right. Well, this will be the second touch on this lead. Um, I'll set the frame. I'll reach back out and I will let them know. I'll reiterate that there were a few comps in the area, and I did consult, with my underwriter to get a very accurate estimate on what we think would be a reasonable offer, and then I will explain to them that we could look at this in two different ways. If we were to come in and try to develop this and just purchase it for the land value, I'm not sure. I'll say, look, I'm not sure what you were offered by the previous developer that purchased your land, but I'm assuming it was somewhere around 10,000 per acre, and I would want to be around that price point as well. Though I do see that you have a beautiful house, and I'd like to know if it could potentially qualify for one of our other programs. And then from there, I'll ask them, does it have appliances? Because the photos that she sent me, they do not have appliances. Everything's in original condition. And then, how do you guys think that I should end the call? Should I just try to further pre-qualify them and then say that I'll get back to them with a final offer, or should I present a number at the second call? Because I already know. I already talked to an agent in the area. They said um, they pulled up this property. They gave me the price per square footage, but it was already finalized. Like it was already finished, and they said that the ARV was probably 300, like all fixed up. And I'm gonna assume that it needs it's gonna need a cosmetic rehab for sure. It's a 1996 build, so it's 2,000 square feet. We can look at the repair estimator in the side chat. Let's pull it up. I'm gonna drop it in the side chat for everybody as well. Shout out to AB for updating the fix and flip calculator for us, provided by the one and only Mr. TTP. And so if it's 2,000 square feet or more and it needs work, we're looking at about 65,000 in repairs. So let's take that 300,000, we'll multiply that typically by 0.7, and then we're going to want to be subtracting the 65,000 for the repairs. That puts us at 145. And then if we want to make 20K, that puts us at 125, an offer of 125, which is, relatively low, in comparison to what they're asking. Though, I mean, if we could just get a appliance upgrade, get some appliances in there, see if we could get it to pass FHA inspection, I think that it would reasonably sell for 250. If we put just the appliances, maybe we spend a total of 5K. So I'm gonna take 250, multiply that by 0.9, and then subtract 35,000. That gives me an offer of 190. So I'm gonna try to anchor her with the cash offer of 125. I'm gonna explain to her, what we're looking at, what developers in the area are looking at. I'm gonna explain, we've done our research, and then from there, I'm gonna kind of see, how flexible she is in terms of her asking price. Because realistically, if we were gonna purchase it for the land, we'd need it at this price. If we were going to purchase it for the property and do the renovation, we would need it at this price. And then potentially we could explore what the retail buyer program looks like. And I could offer her 185. All right, ladies and gentlemen, who's ready? I want to see some fire in the chat. How many people are here? How many people are paying attention? How many people are active and engaged? We're going to watch John Johnson pitch a live novation. I don't think that I'm going to fuck it up. I think that this is going to be a hit. As long as they pick up the phone. Let's get it. All right, just for just some background. I spoke to the seller yesterday. So I already know what their tonality is like. So if you guys kind of see me switch my energy, it's because I already spoke to the seller and I know their personality is not going to mesh with the way that I'm communicating right now. Just something to keep in mind here. So let me go on ahead. I'm going to share my screen. I want to also make sure that we can see this live here on the live stream. I'm going to do a quick test. Okay, I gotta adjust this real quick. Location capture. And alright, Chrome. Alright, y'all. Let's go ahead and give Becky a call.
Hello.
Hey, Becky.
Hey.
This is John Johnson. How are you doing today?
Okay.
Good, good. We spoke yesterday about that property that you were looking to sell in Bowling Green.
Uh-huh.
Yes, I wanted to reach back out to you because what I've done is I've done, some due diligence. I did actually receive those photos that you sent me, and I wanted
Mm-hmm.
to reach out because I was curious to know how recent those photos are.
Last week.
Last week, okay, so the property is pretty much without appliances right now.
Yes.
Okay, no problem. Um, Now, on the last call, we did get a chance to kind of talk about what we're looking to do with the property. We are an investment
Mm-hmm.
company, so we look at it a few different ways. One of the things that we were potentially thinking about doing was purchasing the property and exploring what a potential development, residential development, would look like. And so I
Mm-hmm.
consulted, to see, well, what would the price point be? And I believe on our last call, you mentioned that you sold, I believe it was 14 or 15 acres off to a developer there.
Yes.
Okay. And I'm just curious, were they around about $10,000, give or take, for an acre?
It was 23.5 an acre.
23.5 an acre?
Yes. And you can get now between 55 and 60,000 for a 200-foot lot. That's what the subdivision is beside of us.
Mm-hmm. And I
We've
understand.
sold yeah. We've sold multiple lots and properties to the developer.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I understand. And so what I was kind of taking a look at, because I don't think that it would probably make the most sense to purchase this lot, for the development side of things,
Mhm.
just because I think it'd be a lower number than you'd be expecting.
Mhm.
I think what we're really kind of looking at is purchasing this to be a residential flip, and
Mhm.
at that price point, I will let you know now it is going to be lower than where you were asking, but I do think
Okay.
that it will be something we could work out. Now, in terms of the appliances, I understand, from the photos that it's lacking
Yeah.
appliances.
I'll
It looks
be
like everything's in original
whenever we
condition.
whenever we come to an agreement, I can knock 2,000 off for an appliance package or whatever. That doesn't bother me. Or 3,000 just to go get your commercial appliance package and stick in there new. That's that's not bothering me. I just need to get rid of the property before some upcoming appointments.
I understand. And so
Mhm.
the only real comp, we did consult in the area. We saw that there was a real comp. I'm not sure if you're familiar with 3172 Meadowview Avenue.
Meadow
Uh,
View.
it's a little far away, um, and it does have considerable more square footage. But the reason why we chose this was it was sitting on a significant amount of acreage in terms of the land,
Mhm.
and then
Now you do remember it only comes with 5 acres.
right, it's 5 acres.
Okay.
Um,
Mhm.
but so what we did was we took the price per square footage to kind of see where we think we would sell at the top of the market,
Mhm.
and so we were sitting around 300,000, but that would be if it was in tip top shape, meaning there would be a cosmetic rehab. It looks like maybe we could do something with the flooring. We may go in, replace the cabinets, give it a facelift. And to
Mhm.
be able to do that, we would need to purchase this property at a price point that would make sense for us to come in and make those repairs. Um, and we wouldn't be close to that 300,000 mark
Okay. So the garage is just the 40 by 60 detached garage is just sitting there at no value, correct?
from what we're seeing.
Yeah. Okay.
And so, it is a nice addition to the property. Though I think that, if we were looking at the original 20 acres, I think that
Mhm.
that 300,000 price point would be justified. However, we're just kind of looking at a different situation today, um, and especially if you're looking to sell for cash and close, sooner rather than later, we would have to be, at a substantially lower price point.
So what price point are you at for cash?
So we do have a few options to take a look at here. I know that we already ruled out the purchase for development, being that we would have to be around 10,000 per acre.
Hmm.
If we were to look to purchase it cash and close in the next 30, 45 days, depending on how quickly we can get title back, we would be sitting around $125,000.
Yeah, that's not going to get it. I can have the garage demolished for about 40,000. So because to replace it is about 90,000. So that's not going to work. Okay. Thank you.
And so, what I wanted to also share was I do think that this property may qualify for one of our other programs, and we could
Okay.
potentially get you some more money. But just to put it out there, we wouldn't be the third party purchasing this. We do work closely
I,
with a network of buyers that may be interested.
I
They're already pre
understand
qualified looking for
that
something
price.
like this.
Yeah, we're not going to give it away at that price. I'm sorry.
I
Thank
understand.
you.
So, if we were
Uh-huh.
closer to the 200,000 um, price point, do you think that that's something that you'd like us to explore?
No.
So I understand, that
Yeah,
300,000 is
I've
not going
got
to work.
somebody wanting to. Yeah, it's not going to work. We've got somebody wanting to rent it, which we don't want to take that option. But for $3,000 a month, we may go that way.
Hmm. Where do you think,
Or they can.
if we were to come in
Yeah.
cash and close, what would be the bottom line you'd be willing to take for it?
Well, with your low ball offer there, I'm not even going to consider anything. We'll just go with the renter for 3,000 a month, and it won't take that long to get it built back up. And we can even, well, the renters want to do a rent to own option, so we may go that way.
Alrighty. Well, in that
Okay.
case, if anything does change, our offer does still stand. Would you
All
like me
right.
to circle back with you to see, if anything's changed in the next couple weeks?
Yeah, you can check back in a month or so. But
Okay.
I think the renters wanting to move in, they don't care about the appliances. They have a home business, and the shop is it's fine for them. They said they'll use it as a warehouse. And I'm thinking, wow, yeah, you could do your house payment and your business payment all in one lump sum. That's pretty neat. Okay. All right. Thank you.
All right. Take
You
care.
have a great day.
You too. Bye bye. So I'm gonna be honest, man. I just don't think that the numbers are gonna work out. You know what I'm saying? Yes, that was a PPC lead. That conversation cost probably $300. She may be motivated, but the numbers are what the numbers are. You know what I'm saying? We can't change the numbers. She's not even looking to get closer to 200 grand. She wants 300K. Chat, what do we think? What do we think? No true motivation, no motivation.
Yo, can I? It's gonna be easier because I'm driving. Um, she did say rent to own, and she's considering it at 3,000 a month, right?
Right.
Hello?
Right. Yep.
Oh, hold
Hello.
on. I think. Yeah. Okay. So she said she's considering the 3,000 a month for the rent to own, correct?
She's looking at renting it, just renting it for 3,000 a month.
Using that 3,000 a month towards paying off the house, so you could put a renter in there.
Okay.
Sounds like somebody hit her with a rent to own. They're gonna rent it out with some terms like what Matt Riley does. They're going to rent it out with some terms, and then they're probably going to buy it down the line. If they don't buy it, then those terms go, out the window, and you could restart the terms, and or they could buy the house. If I'm not mistaken, right, Matt?
Let's get Mr. Matt Riley up here.
I mean, that's what I heard when she said.
Here he is, folks.
What are we thinking, Matt?
Mr. Muted Matt Riley.
Summoned from the depths.
Here he is.
Yeah, Dante's correct. I did hear rent to own. I was kind of half listening, but rent to own would be lease option, like what we talked about with John Jackson and stuff like that. So, like Dante was saying, it does sound like she's
considering that
herself, or somebody approached her with a rent to own option. So,
where's this lead at?
Bowling Green, Kentucky.
Kentucky.
Ooh-wee.
Yeesh.
Ooh, at least it's a bigger market in Kentucky.
Yeah, I'm only targeting like major metro counties.
Yeah, so you got 75K. Is it a nice property?
I say you have Matt Riley go in and go hit her with that, since she's already kind of gave up the fact she's doing the lease option with somebody else. Like, and she's considering that more than anything less than 300,000.
Yeah, I mean, we'd have to look at numbers and stuff to see what we could propose. But I mean, if a lease option can be great. So I don't know. Again, I have no idea the numbers, but it sounds like you were trying to offer 200. That's where you needed to be, and she said she wouldn't entertain that. Sounds like she needs to be closer to 3. If she's looking to rent the property, that means sounds like she wants to sell. She doesn't need to sell. So she doesn't need to be cashed out right now. So the great thing about a lease option or rent to own is you agree to a price today that doesn't need to be paid until the future. So maybe she'll agree to a 3-year lease option or a 5-year lease option even. So you can agree to the $300,000 she wants. So she feels like she's getting her price, but that $300,000 doesn't have to be paid until 2, 3, 4, 5 years down, whatever she agrees to at that time. And as long as she's getting the monthly payment she wants, and we could structure it in a way where maybe either some of that monthly payment goes towards the principal balance, or however you want to do it, but there might be a way to get her number, quote unquote, so she feels like she's not selling it for less, she's just selling it in the future.
Okay. Is this something you think you'd want to take a look at and maybe work on with me, and maybe give her a call, see if we can make something happen?
Yeah, we can look at the numbers. At least it's in Bowling Green, so again, that's good. And again, you can make money on this instead of doing a novation or whatever. You just do a lease option assignment. So you create the lease option terms, the monthly payment, the purchase price, all of those things, and then you just go now assign that lease option to somebody else, to the actual tenant buyer, and that's where you make your money. That's not going to cost the seller any money, because you're being compensated from the option fee that's being collected from the tenant buyer. So that's always a benefit to the sellers. We're still doing something that doesn't require an agent, so you're not having to pay a commission by listing it on the market. Even if you were to list it for rent, you're not having to pay that fee. The tenant buyer is going to pay a non-refundable option fee prior to moving in, and all parties involved will be compensated from that option fee. So let's just say it's a $20,000 option fee. You'll receive compensation from that $20,000. The seller will receive compensation from that $20,000. If there was an agent involved, you would split it with the agent as well, but it's just you and the seller. So you can split it 50-50, whatever the seller agrees to in that situation, but you get money from the option fee, and it doesn't come from the seller. So that's always a perk. And then when the tenant buyer actually goes to purchase, let's say you agree to a 2-year lease option, that tenant buyer's already been living in the property for 2 years. When they go to execute their option to purchase, they likely don't bring in a buyer's agent at that point. They've already been living in the property for 2 years. So they likely just call up their lender at that point and start the financing process. So when it comes to the back end as well, it could be a potential benefit to the seller, because there's also not an agent there either. So it's a.
Do you want to
a,
call
a,
her
a
and give her this pitch?
I'd rather run the numbers first and see what we can actually offer, because you already ran through a bunch of numbers with her, and I don't
Right,
want
right,
to.
right.
I don't want to pitch something without numbers because I'm sure she may be interested, but she's like, "What do the numbers look like?" Did she say something about $3,000 a month?
Yes.
It seems. I mean, that seems really high.
Yeah.
But what did she say? They're running like a home business out of there or something?
Yeah, there's this like uh store or something, garage kind of thing. I don't know what it is. Some sort of store, barn thing there at the property. I was talking to the
Yeah. So
agent. The agent said that it'd probably make sense for somebody, who's like got, construction equipment or something like that, want to, stay with their shit, that the HOA in another area might not allow, but because they've got 5 acres here, they could store all their stuff, say with somebody who maybe ran a trucking business or excavation, something like that. And it would be a good opportunity for someone like that.
Yep. So I mean, that's all stuff that we'd have to look into. We were working a deal, um, Sam, Jordan, and I in Texas, and it was, I forget the area, but outside like a major metro, and it was actually on like 7 acres in Texas. There was a main house, and then there was three other. There was a main house, a secondary smaller house, and then two big warehouse like storage shed workshops almost, and each workshop was being rented for $1,500. The secondary house was being rented for like 4 grand, and then the main house was being rented for whatever the hell, 5,000 or whatever. So from all of, and it was a $1.5 million house, but it was bringing in a potential $10,000 a month if all those things were rented out. So with a property like that, it sounds like we need to run numbers on like what would the main house rent out for? Like what's the highest and best use for the main house, and then what could the other thing, warehouse, whatever, rent for at that point? It might be something that makes sense to somebody for at a $300,000 price point. Usually, with just a standard house, it would never be $3,000 a month. But if there's an additional benefit where something else can be utilized, maybe. And especially if you structure it in a way where, maybe it's a lower entry fee, or some of that monthly payment goes towards the principal balance. There's different ways to do it.
So what information would you need from me to further underwrite the deal?
Probably just like whatever you have. Address, we would need to try to run some sort of comps, try to figure out something of like a real accurate estimate, because sometimes it'll be where the person renting the house will also be the one using and renting out the warehouse. Sometimes, depending on how the land is set up, the person renting the house is a different entity than the person renting the warehouse. Like that house in Texas, there was a different person renting the house. There was a completely different family renting the secondary house, and I think a completely separate person renting one of those workshops. And then highest and best use might be vacate all those people, and the person living in the main house would also be utilizing all of the other things on the property. But like MC said, these options can close very, very quick. Like if you could close, if you had a buyer ready to go, you could close tomorrow. There's no title companies on the front side, no title search, no nothing. Usually the buyer will do just a standard walkthrough, and they sign all the paperwork, and that's it. So you don't have to go through title, none of that 30-day closing type stuff. It literally sign the lease option agreement. If you had your buyer today, you assign that contract over to them. They sign initial, they deposit the lease option payment to you, and then you release all funds to all parties, and then that's it. You can close tomorrow. But obviously, you got to find your tenant buyer.
You want
And
to?
instead of doing a novation, like again, I'm still trying to wrap my mind around novation, especially like turnkey. But like with her, it might not make sense to list her like she might be like, I don't want to list it, for that type of reason. But like lease options are great because we can market to our own tenant buyers. But also you can list a property like that on the market either for rent or for sale, and then just only using the MLS listing to advertise the lease option. Like I have one right now in Wimberley, Texas, the nice part of Texas, and we're only listing it for sale, and it only has the lease option language in it. That's all we're utilizing the MLS for, is to advertise to tenant buyers. That's it. So again, if the number thing is her main concern, you might be able to get her number with a lease option, because that person doesn't have to pay it. It might not be worth 300. Do you think it's actually worth 300K today?
No, I don't think so because of what the agent said.
Less?
Yeah, I think it'll sell to 250 as is. 275, 250.
Yeah,
That's
I
like
mean,
max.
same with anything else. Like I have this Memphis deal, and we added it's a 6-year balloon, but we have an extension clause that basically says at the time of the balloon, if the portfolio does not have 25% or more in equity, it automatically extends another 12 months. So if the property's not worth 300K today, you can always add extension language. So say she agrees to 200K or 2 years at $300,000 purchase price. If that tenant buyer goes to get financing and it doesn't appraise, you can always add like an auto extension to it too. But in the agreements, in the lease option language, in the agreements, it states explicitly multiple times that tenant buyer and seller both agree that the purchase price is fair market value for that property. They initial and sign that several times. So if it's not worth 300,000, but both parties are signing saying that they both believe that this is a fair market value, there's nothing else really to do at that point.
Okay. So in terms of gathering some more information, I already have the address, seller information. I can give that all to you. What else can I do? What other information would you need to run your numbers and see what would make sense for a deal like this?
We would just have to pull, I mean, I have like a lease option calculator just for like monthly payment wise. But just, it sounds like this is more for an owner occupant than an investment person. So as long as the monthly payment is fair, and the option fee is around usually 5% of the purchase price. So what is that, 15K? 20K is what the total collected would be, and then split that with the seller however you'd like. So as long as the monthly payment, the option fee is fair, and you can get a long enough time frame, I always say in a lease option, the most appealing part to an end buyer is the time frame. How long are you willing and able to do a lease option for? Anything 12 months or less, not the most appeal, especially if you're charging me full retail or maybe even a little bit above, because I'm not doing an appraisal on the front side. So I'm just trusting my numbers and the seller's numbers that your $300,000 that you're asking is fair. But I only have 12 months now, because everybody needs to know, in a lease option, let's say it's a 3-year lease option, it doesn't necessarily mean it's going to go the full 3 years. That tenant buyer has the right and the ability to execute their option at any point inside that 3-year period. So let's say that property is really worth 250 and we agree to 350 and only a 12-month lease option. It's not really setting up that tenant buyer for success. They're likely going to have to ride out that full 12 months in order to get as much appreciation as possible. Because there's no way are they going to be able to, purchase that property by month 2 or 3 or 4 or 5, because it hasn't appraised. It won't get to that point. And then also too, if it doesn't appraise, it just like in a normal scenario, seller and tenant buyer then have negotiations. Are they going to sell it for the appraised price? Are they going to meet in the middle? All of that takes place. But again, it's one of the ways, just like seller finance, like I might be able to get you your number, so long as I have enough time to give it to you, right? So if the property's truly worth 250, you just want to try to work in a timeline that makes sense to give that tenant buyer enough time. And it's just more appealing, right? It's just like seller finance. I don't have to go to the bank for 3 years or 5 years. Fantastic. And by that time, I agreed to $300,000 today. You give me a 5-year lease option. Maybe in 5 years' time, that property's worth $400,000, and I have the ability to purchase it for $300,000. So I'm walking into $100K in equity potentially. So that's where lease options, they're not for every scenario, but they're definitely, if structured correctly, you having an option to purchase a property for way cheaper than market value at that time, and you're the only person on the planet with that option to purchase that property for that price. There's power in that, depending on how it's structured and depending on the property and everything else.
Okay.
And no real recourse to the tenant buyer. If they agree to a 3-year lease option, they give their non-refundable option fee up front, they make their monthly payments. At the end of 3 years, if that tenant buyer is like, yeah, I don't want to buy this thing, for whatever reason, I'm moving to the moon. See you later. The only thing that happens to that tenant buyer is they lost their non-refundable option fee that they paid up front. There's no foreclosure. There's no, it's all agreed upon. If you don't buy this thing, you lose all of the money you've paid up front. That's already signed initial. It's understood. So that's the only thing that takes place in that scenario. So it's good for a tenant buyer because they can just walk away at any time with no recourse. And they just lose out. I mean, the recourse is they lost out on their money. And if they execute their option, then the option fee that they paid up front is used as towards their down payment on the financing. Or if they're buying it in cash, it would just be reduced from the total purchase price. Yes. When you go retail and lease option, do you go through RMLO guidelines to make sure they would qualify at the end of the term? Yes. Texas, like in Texas specifically, you have to go through a mortgage lender, which is the way that Texas does it is how everybody should do it. So I just do everything the way for Texas guidelines because it's just the right way to go. So we have a mortgage lender that runs the credit profile on a tenant buyer. It's basically like a credit app. So we know what their credit score is. We know what their debt to income is, employment and income verification, all of those things. And the lender is the one that gives the green light on the tenant buyer, not Matt Riley. If Matt Riley gives the green light, Matt Riley could potentially be liable by setting somebody up in a lease option that shouldn't be able to be in that lease option, or they had no ability to qualify. Matt Riley's not a licensed lender to give that green light. So a licensed lender does it and then gives the green light. According to what I've collected, this individual has the ability to purchase this property at the agreed upon terms, so long as nothing changes, right? Just like a pre-approval. When you guys go to a bank or go to a lender and get a pre-approval to buy a house, that pre-approval basically says Matt Riley has the ability to purchase this property, or Matt Riley's qualified up to $300,000 to purchase a home based off the information that we've collected, and so long as nothing changes prior to purchasing. So long as my income stays the same, so long as my credit score and DTI and all of those things stay the same. So that licensed lender will give the green light. Hey, from what I've seen now, yes, they could qualify so long as nothing changes. But in 3 years' time, if that person has gone through a foreclosure or, racked up a bunch of credit card debt and dropped their credit score and all of that stuff, that's not what we collected up front. Learning about lease options. I'll teach you anything you want to know. John Jackson, though, is who he teaches. I think you already went through the John Jackson funnel. So I already knew about lease options, and then he just kind of filled in a few pieces for me. Basically, just the contracts and agreements. But everything else is pretty standard. It's nothing too crazy. Again, just making sure that you lean on the licensed individuals for those applications up front, and you're good to go. Texas requires it on lease options and wraps. So in the last 2 or so years, Texas made it pretty much mandatory that if you're doing a wrap, if you buy a house and you're wrapping it to an owner occupant. So if I'm buying a house and my interest rate is 4% and I'm wrapping it to an owner occupant at 8% and I'm collecting the difference, I'm playing the bank. I'm playing the lender in that scenario. And so I need to bring in a licensed lender to run credit and a credit profile on that owner occupant, so I can get the green light that this person has the ability to qualify for the payments and everything else that we've put in place on that wrap. Same with lease options as well. Which is the way to do it, because on a wrap, you're creating a note, and that note has value. You can sell that note, and you create more value with that note by having that licensed lender up front run everything. So now you're selling that note to somebody, and you're saying this person was ran through an RMLO, and they're paying through a servicing company. So everything is tracked, everything's recorded, and this person was approved by the licensed lender. So you did everything you were supposed to do. This is a qualified buyer paying through a servicing company, as opposed to a note where, you just did it with the buyer, and they, hey, you want to pay $3,000 a month? And the buyer goes, yeah, okay. And then you move them in and create, and that note doesn't really hold nearly value as the note that actually went through all the proper channels and steps that you're supposed to do. That all makes sense?
It makes sense to me.
Especially there's a thing called the Dodd-Frank Act, which revolves around lending, predatory lending. So if you are playing lender to a person, so if your end buyer is an individual, not an LLC, but an individual, you are subject to the Dodd-Frank rules and regulations, which revolves around lending practices and predatory lending. So we've talked about it before. These acts and regulations exist because there are bad operators in this space who have performed lease options and wraps and seller finance transactions with individuals that had no business buying these properties. They were never qualified. They were never able to support that monthly payment, nothing. And so Dodd-Frank basically says you have to go through these channels and these steps. If you do not, and we catch you foreclosing on someone or taking a property back, there is, you can get in trouble as that person. They can give that property back to that buyer. You can be fined. There's a lot of things that can happen. Now, if you do it to an LLC or an entity, two LLCs can do together and not have to worry about Dodd-Frank. LLCs, all the protections are in place for individuals. So if you get financing today, you go to finance a home with a traditional lender as a person, Matt Riley, not Matt Riley LLC, but just Matt Riley, I have all of the protections in place for me. There's all of the mortgage protections and all of the fair lending practices. But if Matt Riley LLC, when you start getting into the commercial lending and the DSCR and you're buying things in an LLC or in an entity, there are virtually no protections. They look at LLCs as businesses, as corporations. They don't look at them as people. So there's really no protections for them. So if two LLCs do a wrap together or two LLCs do a lease option together, you don't have to worry about the mortgage lender or any of those things, because those two parties can do business together without having to worry about Dodd-Frank. But if Matt Riley LLC is doing business with an owner occupant or a person, then Matt Riley has to now worry about all of those things. I'm not seeing anything in the side chat, so this might be going over a lot of people's heads.
Where we at, chat? Let us know. Are people taking notes? Do you understand what Matt is saying? Do you understand the importance of the Dodd-Frank, I guess it's a regulation?
Sounded like Chinese. Yeah, that's right. That's what I thought. Dodd-Frank Act. So this is, and most of the, like, this is shit that most people in here are not ever going to have to concern themselves with. Because, again, most people are just doing normal transactions. Most people are and just putting a renter in place. That's their investment strategy. That's about the extent of their investment knowledge. Is I know how to buy a house and I know how to put a renter in there. Anything else outside of that, I'm not familiar with, and that's too complicated. I don't know short-term rental. I don't know midterm rental. I don't know how to wrap, how to find a wrap buyer, lease options. So most people will not have to concern themselves with this. But anything, I feel like the only reason you should know this stuff is if you're on the wholesaling side to be able to, realize a situation when it's in front of you of how to approach certain things. Yeah, only if you're doing creative deals. Up to seller finance in Florida and Texas. Yeah, Texas is obviously Texas is great because it's a huge, robust state and market, but Texas has the toughest rules and regulations when it comes to lease options and wraps. If they're pretty much like the front runner of putting things in place for protections. I guess from what John Jackson told me, there was a big tornado that came through Texas, I believe Fort Worth, maybe back in 2005, somewhere around that period of time. And that tornado took out a big neighborhood. And that neighborhood just so happened to be a neighborhood that was primarily owned by investors who had all of the occupants in those homes were wrap buyers or lease option tenant buyers. And so when the tornado came through, all of those wraps and lease options were done incorrectly when it came to like insurance and things like that. So these people had, when you're a wrap buyer, your note is secured by that property. I'm the owner of that property for the most part. As a tenant buyer, my lease option is in regards to this property. Well, this property just got blown away by a tornado. Who's in charge of, building me a new house? Who's in charge of the insurance proceeds and all of that? So I guess there was millions of dollars worth of damage, and there was a lot of pointing fingers and a lot of incorrect shit, and a lot of tenant buyers and buyers were suing the investors, and it became a big problem. So Texas in 2007, I think it was, put in regulations officially for contract for deed and lease options. So where they set the standard of what can and can't take place for those two transactions. And then as recent as I think 2 or 3 years ago, they went further where now you have to plug in an RMLO on wraps. And they're just very, very strict. Very, very strict. Knowing how to structure when and what type. I know I'm working with Ella as TC to make sure all the paper. Yep, Ella's great as a TC. She knows all of the, she should know all the, I don't know if lease options is kind of outside the purview of what a lot of people do. There's not a lot of people doing lease options. So, but everything else Ella's fantastic at. And I'm sure she can figure out the lease option stuff. For the wholesaler looking to break into the lease option assignment space, what would you recommend their first steps be? That's a great question. I think first and foremost, what market are you going to be doing lease options in? Because again, the person that I was working with, John Jackson, is based out of Texas. He's been doing lease options in Texas for 20 years. Why? I don't know, because it's literally the biggest pain in the ass market to do lease options in. That in South Carolina for sure, hands down, 1000%. Because there are different contracts that you use in Texas, North Carolina, Ohio, those that you have specific contracts and agreements for, because those states have different disclosures and acknowledgments and language that you need in those contracts. And then there's contracts for pretty much every other state. So trying to figure out what market you're going to be going after is important, because then you need to figure out if you have the proper contracts and agreements for those states. But to me, lease options are easy, man. It's easy. It's not fast money like cash or creative, it's a longer dispo because you're most likely looking for an MLS retail buyer. And depending on the market, that takes time. It could take 30 days, 60 days. But it's very, very easy to build up a lease option pipeline of sellers for that because it's something that everybody understands. Just like cash, everybody understands. I understand a cash. I'm a seller, and you're pitching me cash. I lease option. The person living in the property is going to be a renter. I understand that. Everybody understands renting out their property. And it's a much safer transaction for that seller because they're a tenant first with an option to purchase. So in the event there's a default or anything else like that, it's an eviction, not a foreclosure. So, and the seller's getting money up front from the option fee. They're getting a monthly payment. So it's a very, very easy conversation. My wife even mentioned, like, when I started doing lease options, she's like, your conversations I hear you having are so much nicer and less stress. And so if you're doing on market lease options or even off market, it's a much easier conversation. There's no real, you're not selling anything or convincing. It's very easy. As a wholesaler, how does one get their fee paid to them if no title is involved? Oh, in lease option assignments, in a lease option in general, the tenant buyer is paying a refund fee prior to moving in. That's basically their down payment. So that payment is paid to you. You're the third party, and then you disperse to whoever else is getting paid. So it's just you and the seller. Tenant buyer is going to pay their non-refundable option fee. Let's just a $20,000 option fee. It's a $400,000 house. 5% of that would be $20,000. So tenant buyer pays $1,000 option fee upfront plus their first month payment. With the seller that they receive 50% of the option fee. So prior to moving in, you're going to give that seller 10 option payment. You the other. So you're providing a real service to that seller in a lease option. You're going into your own database to find a tenant buyer. You're marketing that property. You're doing all of these things and sourcing a tenant buyer that is agreeing to the terms in place. And then you're being compensated from the tenant buyer, not from the seller. So that's why sellers like it too, because it's not a cost to them. The money that is being paid is
Matt probably got a phone call. Big Play J asks a good question. Comping a property where there is more than one unit, with an example of a main house and two ADUs in the back, how are you looking at underwriting it? I would bring that to somebody else. I would bring that to someone like Matt or someone like Bob. I'll probably bring that to Bob, ask Bob what he would do, and he'll tell you. But what is the condition of the property? Is it they're selling it to be a flip, or are you buying it because of cash flow? What is the motivation? What's the situation with that one? Matt, are you back?
right. Got booted off my Wi-Fi.
Oh, damn.
Now I had to join on my phone. What'd you say?
So Big Play J asks, he said this might be off topic, but where there's a property that has more than one unit on the lot, for an example, a main house with two ADUs, how are you looking at underwriting it? Is it the same as multifamily or single family residential?
All right, can you hear me?
I can hear you.
We're using hotspots over here. Might be off topic, but those properties where there's more than one unit on the lot, example, main house and two ADUs in the back, how are you looking at the underwriting? it the same as a multifamily or a single family residence? Probably not a multifamily, only because so you got to think of appraisals or appraisers, right? Appraisals or appraisers in those types of scenarios. Part of that appraisal report you'll see is what is the highest and best use of that property, and that's how they'll do the approach when it comes to appraisal. So if I'm underwriting it as a buyer, value wise, I'd probably just go, I'd probably underwrite it as a single family and then see if I can find other ones with ADUs that sold. But um, I'm going to do probably an income approach underwriting and see, just like the Texas one that I was referring to, with the main house, the secondary house, and the two warehouses. Um, when I was looking at value, I was looking at comps of just lot size. Like this one had 7 acres, so I wanted to see other properties that had a property size of 5 acres or more, and then bedroom, bathroom count, square footage of the main house. And then I'm going to add in the other things additional to that. But when I was doing my underwriting for either me or for the end buyer, I was adding in all the potential income for all of the things that were on that property. So the main house being rented for $4,500 a month, the secondary house being rented for $4,000 a month, and then the two warehouses for $1,500 a month, which ended up being close to 10K. So I was running it all off of, kind of doing both. I would recommend partnering up with an agent for end buyers. I pay them for the lease and they get the commission at the sale, and look for buy and hold investors for wholesaling. Yeah. The only problem with bringing in an agent so if you're doing, it depends. Like if I'm going directly to seller, then it's just me and the seller splitting that option fee. So if an agent gets brought in, not a big deal. But if you're doing on market, so now that same $20,000 option fee is being split between the agent, the listing agent, and the seller. Now, if my tenant buyer comes in with an agent, now I have to split this 4 different ways between the buyer's agent, the listing agent, the seller, and me. And so it becomes a really tight pie at that point. But listing lease options on the market is definitely very valuable. You're getting, just like anything else, you're getting in front of the most amount of people that you possibly can, and you got a lot of people. Think about anybody that's done innovation here. When you're looking at like the Zillow statistics, where it shows you how many views, how many how many saves. Think about how many people have looked at a property that are interested in that property, but whatever reason, interest rates are too high or whatever the case is, that they passed up on that property, or maybe they did a showing and decided not to pull the trigger because of whatever reason. Again, interest rates are too high, whatever it is. But if they knew that a lease option was available and they could make a monthly payment that was affordable, they pay a 5% or less option fee, and they have the ability to purchase that property in the next 12 to 36 months, that you're gonna re-engage so many more people with that type of strategy. But I think that's it. I don't even see nothing in the side chat. So,
Well, I appreciate it, Matt. I know that a lot of people were asking, do you have some time today to host a show? Maybe we could underwrite that deal for the lease option and make that call back to the seller.
yeah, we can. Sure.
Dennis is saying
People are going to be, if you guys are going to be interested in actually, yeah.
Drop some fire in the chat. Let us know if you're interested in hearing Matt underwrite this deal that I called earlier. I pitched them Novation. It still didn't work for them. So what do? I don't know about lease options, but there's still, an opportunity to make some money here. Who did I bring it to? Mr. Matt Riley, Mr. Rinse and Repeat, the man with a plan. He's got a solution for this lady's problem. And if you guys want to see how he comes up with that solution, you can tap in today. What time do you want to host it, Matt? Let's shoot for today at what time?
That's too many fires.
A lot of people want to see. What time should we host this, Matt?
We're gonna have to do it for 2. We'll just do the normal. We'll do 2 p.m. Central.
2 p.m. Central. You heard it here first, folks. We'll be back here in about 2 hours. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the #1 most valuable real estate community in existence. If you haven't already, you need to invite somebody to be a part of this revolution. Send them that link, discord.gg/REI Rev. If you're not already, make sure to follow us. We'll be showcasing this opportunity to learn about how Matt underwrites these lease options. Definitely tap in with Matt, ladies and gentlemen. You saw that the novation did not work for this lead. The cash offer did not work for this lead, but maybe this lead can still be profitable. I will see you there. Thank you, Matt.
Booyah. Yes, sir.